Hello everyone, welcome. So meet our little model for today's tutorial. Her name is Well and she's saying hi. Hi and this hi mamas. Welcome once again. So we'll be making the black dress you saw in the first slide. So I went ahead to cut out the half length of the dress, which was 8.5. Added 1 inch for sewing. It is originally supposed to be 7.5, so I added extra 1 inch. After that, I went up to the shoulder measurement. Her shoulder is 8. I divided by 2. That's 4. I marked out the 4. Then I came down by 4 inches again after marking out my shoulder slope, half inch for shoulder slope. I came down from there 4 inches for my armhole. So after that, I measured out the chest and the waist measurement, which was 5 respectively. I added extra 1.5 inches, making it 6.5 inches for both the chest and the waist line. I went ahead and cut out because I guess that's the end of that session. So after that, I cut out the upper bodice. For the neckline, I used 2 by 2, even though the depth of the neckline is not really important in this case, but I used 2 by 2. Then I used the front bodice to cut out my back bodice, leaving 1 inch allowance for my zipper. So I just placed it on the other material and cut out exactly as it is, but just leaving an extra 1 inch where I'll be attaching my zipper. So after that, I went ahead and cut out just as you can see. Just as you can see. Then so after that, I went ahead to cut out the slanty neckline. You know, the neckline is one-sided, so I marked out 3 inches from the shoulder line. That is how deep I wanted the other part of the shoulder to be, other part of the neckline to be 3 inches, so it doesn't come down too much and it doesn't hang up too much. So I used 3 inches, but before then I just had to cut out 2 inches for the neckline so I can get a direction for the neckline so I don't overcut or undercut. So I marked out the 3 inches and I'm going to slant it out from the other part of the neckline. I just brought it down to the 3 inches where I'm marking exactly right now. So after cutting out this, I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the back. But in the back's case, I'm going to open up, just keep them as if I have already attached my zipper, then place the front bodice on the back bodice like so. Then I'm going to cut out exactly as it is for the front bodice, so one side doesn't become too low or higher than the other side. So that's why I had to place it on the back bodice, just as you can see, so I can make everything equal and the same. So I'm just going to cut it out right now. So after cutting out the front and the back body slant like so. Hi, how for mamas, how are you doing? It's cool, it's back to school o'clock. I hope you guys are ready. So for the lower bodies, I went ahead to cut out my flay as I always do, my 180 degrees flay. So I divided her waist measurement by 3.14. I divided 20 inches by 3.14, and I had 6.3. So I used 6.3 to cut out from the topmost to where you're seeing that first line marked. Then from that line marked, I came down by the length of the half bodice. I used 10.5 in this case. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut out just as I have done. You can see the waist is a little too much, but not so much. I would have been okay with 11 inches, that's 22, but I had 23. So I'm just going to work with that. Remember, her waist measurement is 20 inches. So after that, I went ahead to cut out the lining of the dress. I used the same fabric for both the lining and the main bodice. So please, it's very much advisable to add your ST, your interfacing, gives it firmness and makes it come out better and finer. It is advisable if you have. I did not have in this case, and since it's a tutorial, it's not really for a client. I just had to make use of what I had at the very point in time. So, but I would advise, if you're making this kind of style, it is advisable you use interfacing. That's ST, just to give it firmness. So after that, for the downside, you remember the style has 3 layers of net. This is not the ball dress pattern we always do. This one has 3 layers, and all 3 layers will be visible. So I went ahead to mark out the 3 different layers, making sure that each layer, the other one overlaps it with at least 1 inch, so the sewing line doesn't show. I made sure that each of the net overlaps the other, the one following it. So I had to cut out 5 inches, 5 inches, and 4 inches, just so it covers it accordingly. So for the first line, I used 4 inches, the second one 5 inches, the last one 5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead now and mark out all of these lines. I'm going to mark them out so I can follow them sequentially when I'm placing my net. So I made use of those different measurements in cutting out my net. I cut out my net in 3 different pieces. I think 3 or 4. So you can cut out, this is really dependent on the age and the size of the child. For this dress, I made it for a year plus, and you can see she's on the small side, so I didn't have to use so much. So it all boils down to how big or how tall the child is, and your in short, your preference. That's just it. So for this project, I used four yards of net, 1 yard of bridal satin. So I now used the marked out 4 inches to cut out the net, like I said earlier. So now for the upper part, you remember it is not a plain bridal. I used a design black net for that upper part to drape on it. So I went ahead to just cut out a long strap, as in a long, depending on how wide your upper bodice is. I made sure it was a little above the length of the upper bodice, so it can cover it up and down. So now I started by folding it, just like you're pleating. Started by folding it each layer, and as I went on, I made sure I pinned down. If not, all your effort will just go to waste. So I made sure, as I was folding it in, I was observing the upper and lower part, so I'd make sure that I am not over dragging it to one side. So I noticed the upper part, the net on the upper part was becoming shorter. I had to unpin, readjust the net and continue, so it doesn't become a wasted effort after going through all the stress. Because my dear, this part of it is a little stressful. It is stressful. This part of the dress is stressful, but of course the outcome is always beautiful. So I went on again. I started with what I was doing. After I made sure that everything was all in line, was in place, so I continued like this till I got to the end. Make sure you're always pinning down to secure whatever you're doing. So if you notice, this style has been on this upper bodice pattern. You'd always see it online. I've been seeing it recently too often these days. So I was done here. I'm just going to go ahead now and sew on it so I can trim off the excesses. So I'll just go and match top stitch on it, the upper and the lower side. Then I can trim off those parts. Then after that, I'll just go ahead and use my lining to turn it, just the way you always make your normal dress. So welcome to my sewing table. So first thing here, I went ahead to prepare my lower bodice by bending. After that, I started with the lower side of my net, the first layer. I gathered and gathered till I got to the end. If you have enough net, it is advisable you double your net. It gives it more fullness and makes it stand better than using just a single net, than just pleating a single net. If you have enough net, you can always double and pleat. So I noticed a significant difference. For the first layer, I used a single net, but for the second and the third layer, I doubled my net, and I could see it looked more beautiful. The doubled net looked better than using a single net. So I went on till I completed this phase. So this is the outcome. You can see that the doubled one looked a little fuller and finer, firmer and in place than the single net. So for the upper bodice, that's my lower bodice is ready. So for the upper bodice, I went ahead to turn with the lining. I had to hold the net in place first before turning with the lining. You just have to be careful here, so you don't sew on your pins. And so like I always say, if you have anything you would want us to look in, you want me to look in, please do not hesitate to drop in the comment section. Please, if you have issues, if you're having any challenge, if you have questions, please do not fail to drop in the comment section. I am here for you. So I was done with this side. I went ahead to use my lining to turn it over. You can see how beautiful it's already looking. It's always very fine, sha. It comes out really nice. So you can see. See. So I just went ahead and turned everything. Joined the back side, the shoulder, the one shoulder. I joined the one shoulder. I pressed it, I ironed it just so it comes out better. Then now I'm going to go ahead and join the sides, both the front and the back. I'll join the front and the back to keep them in place. Remember, I used 1.5 inches for the allowance. So right now, you remember the style had a little belt in front. So I went ahead to measure a long strap for the front side, long enough to cover from the front left hand side to the right hand side. Then I measured 1.5 inches in width and 3 inches on fold, 1.5. And I'm just going to attach it there. After sewing, I turned and I'm going to attach it on my dress before attaching it to the lower bodice. This is like a band, but basically for the front side. So after attaching it, I went ahead to join every part of it, and I'm going to now attach the lower bodice with the upper bodice. So make sure you notch both the upper and the lower bodies so you can join them from the notch. So at the end, one side doesn't become longer than the other side. Always make sure you notch both the upper and the lower bodies before attaching them to be sure that you are on the same page. So now I'm going to make sure that the band is not affected while joining. So you have to keep checking, you have to keep monitoring the band. Be sure it doesn't enter while you're joining the upper and the lower bodies because it's not supposed to be sewn on. So after joining this part now, I'll go ahead and attach the lining for the lower bodies. So just like I attached the upper part to the lower part, I'm going to attach the lining, the lower part of the lining to the upper part of the lining, upper bodies of the lining. So after I'm done with that, I'll make sure I join both the back and the front bodies. Back side facing back side, front side facing front side, lining to lining, and front bodies to front bodies, main bodies to main bodies. So I'm done attaching the lining. So I'm going to go ahead now and attach, then join the lining, the inner part to the main bodies. So after that, I'll go ahead and attach the zipper. I'm sure we all know how to attach zipper, but if we do not, then you can indicate. So I'll make a detailed video on that. So after I am done with attaching the zipper, that is the end of the dress. You can just look for any small design and attach to the band. I used a little bow just to give it small, just attach small bow in front. That's what I did. You can decide to attach anything. You can decide to attach appliques, trimmings, whatsoever you want. The choice is all yours. So we are done. Thank you for watching. See you next time.